Awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. This is actually my first time in New York, so I'm really excited. Loving the city. Yes. It's actually. Oh, hey. Oh, that's crazy. I'll talk to you guys about her later. But thank you guys again so much for coming out and sticking around to the end of the day and kind of spending the last hour here. First of all, before I ever do any of these talks, I like to just start with just like a little bit of engagement, just so one, I can like get to know the crowd a little bit, but also I know when you guys are like sitting in these seats for like hours after hours, you can kind of just like start to want to zone out a little bit. So obviously today we're talking about production and YouTube. So I want to know, first of all, who is in the world of like video production? So just like by a show of hands. Awesome. All right, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Now, continue to raise your hands or let me know who is in the world of YouTube. So if you're still in YouTube, keep the hands up. All right. And now who is not in production at all? You just like YouTube. Okay, decent little mix. And honestly, I love that most of you guys are kind of in the middle because I get asked all the time, like, Brandon, what are you? Right? And so even when I had to make this slide, I was like, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a creator, but like it feels like today those worlds kind of are all just mixing together. And it can be very difficult, especially with, you start off as a YouTuber and then they say, well, you need to make short form content. So you're like, oh, okay, I guess I make TikToks now. And then Instagram and Facebook are like, we want some of that. So then they steal it. And then we turn around and now we're making, Instagram Reels. And then eventually now YouTube is in the game with YouTube Shorts. And so as I've sort of progressed, I have found that this kind of order of filmmaker, YouTuber, creator has actually been like my journey. I started out sort of just doing filmmaking and primarily in the realm of creating content for other companies. So my whole journey started off with, I wanted to start a video production company. I liked cameras, and I accidentally found out that you can make money doing this. And I was like, this is probably gonna be 10 times better than any normal job I could possibly get. So I got into the game, specifically shooting content for others. But I realized that for me, shooting content for others doesn't always scratch that creative itch. And I'm sure you guys have had that before. For those of you guys who raised your hands earlier and you said you did production, I'm sure you've worked on a video or a photo shoot or something where you pretty much are just doing it for the money. Like at the end of the day, it's a meal deal, it's what I call it. It's a job that just puts bread on the table. You're not allowed to be super creative. The client wants a thing and you're like, that's kind of dumb. But they're like, this is what we want, and so you give it to them. But at the end of the day, you still feel that urge to make something that's like uniquely your own and makes you want to be creative. And so for me, that's when I turned to YouTube. When I first got on YouTube, if you go far enough back enough, you will realize that my skill set was not great. I actually say that YouTube made me a better filmmaker, and a lot of my clients benefited from the fact that I was on YouTube. I actually, if you go really far back, I knew nothing about lighting when I first started, which as most of you guys will know, lighting is like honestly more important than your camera or your lenses or anything else. Like if you know how to light something properly, you will go so much further. But I knew nothing about lighting when I first started. And you know who told me that? The comment sections in YouTube. They let me know real quick. They were like, are you teaching about filmmaking and you're using a ring light? And I was like, dude, that's all I got. Like, I'm broke. Like, give me a break. But, that's what I love about YouTube is not only is it a place to be able to create and make new pieces of art for yourself, but there is something about that instant feedback. There's an instant feedback that comes whenever you're on YouTube. And so my journey sort of has progressed quite a bit as I tried to discover who I was as a creator. As you can see on here, I've shot with, high-end cinema cameras. I shoot on DSLRs, mirrorless cameras. And that's primarily because for me, it's all about the tools. All gear, no matter what you're making for YouTube or you're making it for your own personal stuff, they're all just tools, and it's all about finding the right tools for the job. Now, I had to do like an official about me. And so my company has sort of evolved quite a bit. And I'm actually really excited to talk to you guys a little bit about my company because I feel like a lot of times, especially if you've discovered me on YouTube, you may not even know that behind all of that was the production company. As I said, I started off with a production company creating content for other people. And through doing that, it brought me to YouTube. But through doing YouTube, I actually found that there was more I wanted to do. Now, my background as far as like from filmmaking is that I'm not actually classically trained in anything. Actually, everything I learned has come from hard work, has come from trial and a lot of error, a lot of feedback through YouTube, as I mentioned, through the comment section, and being able to partner with other creators who are far more talented than I am and learning from them. And one thing that I found through my journey was just one, how difficult it is sometimes to find the information. To me, the most dangerous knowledge is things that you don't know that you don't know. And if you don't know that you don't know it, you can't even research it. You can't even go to the library and check out a book about it. You can't go online and look up a YouTube video about it. You literally are just lost. And I realized really quickly that there was a lot of things that I didn't know, and that there's probably a ton of other people just like me who are going through the same troubles. And so my journey to create for myself on YouTube really took on a life of its own, and it came to a place to where I really wanted to focus on helping others to learn that craft. I understand that a lot of people are like me. They can't go to film school, whether they can't afford it, like I couldn't afford it, or they don't want to go into a bunch of debt, which is pretty much the same thing to me. And so I wanted to use my platform, my outlet, as a way to sort of help educate the next generation. Now, structuring that for my business was very challenging because, as some of you guys may know, when you first start on YouTube, you don't make any money. Like, you don't make any money at all. And like the first day you get a little bit of AdSense, you're like ecstatic. The first time a company reaches out and wants to give you something for free, you're doing laps around the house. So for me, when I first started out on YouTube, it was many years before I could actually take it seriously. Because I had a family I had to take care of. I had a wife and a kid, and had a kid at a really young age, so I had to grow up really fast. So I was like, I want to do this YouTube thing, but I can't really take it seriously right now. And then I had the production stuff going on, but I was like, this is eating away at my soul. I got to figure out a way to be creative. So I did YouTube. And then eventually, I figured out a perfect little balance. So if you look at my company now, the name of my company is Bwash Media. And it's not anything fancy. My name is Brandon Washington, and that's a really long name. And if you try to buy any URLs with the name Washington in it, they just charge you way more money for no reason. So I went with Bwash Media to hyphenate everything. But as you guys can see here, the way I tried to structure everything that I did is basically based around those three verticals that I talked to you guys about. So you have the Brandon Washington vertical, which is my YouTube channel. It is my creative outlet. It is where I teach. I do camera reviews. I try to help people. We also have the video production side of things, as I mentioned before, which is where we create content for clients and we help produce content for them. And then we have that newest tier, the tier that I told you guys about as far as like my way of trying to give back, and that was through the Creative Fam Academy. But structuring everything, as you can see with the arrows all pointing to one big project, was super important to me. As a creator, I know you guys have probably been in the situation where you're like, dude, that's a lot. How do you pull it all off? How can you shoot for clients, shoot for yourself, and maybe do something else to give back? Well, the way I tried to do it was I just tried to figure out how to make it all married together. This is actually a project that we did where we shot an interview, and that was actually a paid client. So it fit into the video production deal. They hired us to shoot a documentary for them, and so we were shooting some content. However, at the same time, I took that video and I took the lighting breakdown and we put that in, and we actually uploaded that underneath the Brandon Washington YouTube channel. And then I created an entire course on how to shoot interviews, and that was all uploaded through my Creative Fam Academy, which is my online platform. And so I tell you that to let you know that like there's probably some way for you to marry what you have to do with what you want to do. And I find that that's probably the hardest part, but if you can break that piece open, it unlocks everything that you can do. There's probably something right now that you do on a regular basis that you're like, man, I'd really love to like be on YouTube. And it's something you're probably already doing on a regular basis that you can just incorporate that into what you're doing, especially on YouTube. The other piece of advice I'd give here is that what you're probably doing, you might look at and think, that's kind of boring. Nobody cares about that, right? Or you might say, I'm just living my life in New York City. That's pretty boring. There's nothing crazy going on. And I'll tell you right now, I've only been in the city for 2 days, and everything looks amazing to me. I mean, there's like, no one cares about traffic here at all. They just, like, pedestrians just own the roads here. And that's, like, mind-blowing to me from Houston where, you know, that ain't gonna happen. So, you know, what you might look at and think is boring or mundane, I can tell you that there is an audience out there that is interested in it and would love to learn more about what you're doing. The other thing I'll say is that, you know, today we're talking about a little bit about video production and within YouTube. And surprisingly, if you are a fan of my channel or if you see my content, it's very easy to look at it and say, whoa, they're shooting on crazy cameras and they're using these crazy lights and accessories and everything. But most of the time, the BTS and what you guys are consuming on my channel is typically shot on something as simple as like a Canon R6 or a Sony a7S III. And so the gear that we use to create the content isn't really as crazy as you might think. However, what we try to do in sort of the area that I really want to lean into is just showing people what can be done if you choose to upgrade your video production. So the big question that, you know, I like to answer is like, well, why YouTube? Right? Why YouTube? And so some of these things I talked a little bit about already. Because when you're doing all of these different things, it could be like, well, why do you want to be on YouTube versus maybe TikTok or Instagram? Or maybe you just want to make films and put them in theaters. Like, why do I like YouTube personally? And the first one is creative freedom. The thing I like the most about YouTube is that you don't have a boss. No one's telling you when to upload your content or when you should post it. You get a chance to really decide what you want to do with your own content. And as someone, as I mentioned before, who has shot a ton of client content, it is so nice to just have creative freedom on my own thing and just be excited whenever I press that publish button. The next one is connection and community. The comment section, they're brutal, but if you can read through it, there's a lot that you can learn from there. But also, you could actually probably make some of your best friends from there. You know, just being here for the last 2 days and being out on the floor and getting a chance to meet some of you guys and shake hands and take pictures, like, that is something that my production company would have never allowed me to do. I mean, my production company, as many years as I ran that before I introduced YouTube and the rest of it, it never brought me to New York. YouTube is what brought me to New York. And so YouTube can really allow you to find and reach people all over the world. I mean, when I look at my analytics, I can see that I have people in India and in the UK and in Brazil and in places like people who's like, honestly, if we just saw each other on the street, we may never interact with each other. But YouTube can allow for that connection to happen. The next one is just adventures. I'm going to just be fully transparent with you guys. YouTube has taken me on some crazy adventures that I never thought I'd go on. Like, for example, coming to New York. I mean, I never knew if I'd ever come to New York because I didn't have a reason to be here. But YouTube can take you on adventures that you'll never expect to go on. And there's so much opportunity because you're able to speak to the entire world. And you never know where your next friend will be. This is probably my favorite one, and that's paid marketing. So I don't know if you guys are sort of familiar with, like, you know, when YouTubers do their brand integrations, right? So obviously that is like a paid spot. But with most brand integrations, you get a chance to like make your video about whatever you want, and then the brands just pay you to just talk about them for a few seconds. And what I've loved about that is that YouTube is the only platform, and social media in general is sort of the only platform where you can be passionate about something and want to make content about that thing, and you can be paid to share that thing. So let's say, for example, you are really passionate about a certain park in your city and you want to save that park. You can post a video about that park and you can post a passionate piece of content around that thing that you love, which is marketing, right? You want to market that thing. You want to market your passion around that. And you can actually make money off of AdSense from that. It's insane that there's a platform that you can actually upload videos to and get paid to make what you want to make and put it out there, and you can actually share what you're doing. And so in the way that we've done it is with our Creative Fam Academy, it's allowed us to really educate a lot of people. It has allowed us to bring a community of creators together. And yes, it is our online platform. Yes, it's where we have training courses. Yes, it's where we bring community together. But ironically, we can make videos about educating and helping people grow. We're also at the same time marketing our Creative Fam Academy, and simultaneously, YouTube's actually paying us to do that, which is like kind of wild. I never thought that would ever happen, but it's crazy that we have a platform that allows us to do that. The next one is obviously the challenge. Now, I'm sure everyone here who rose their hand that says they are on YouTube in some way, you understand that YouTube is a challenge. Whether it's trying to figure out how to take care of those darn thumbnails, which is like a bane of everybody's existence. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by thumbnails, it's okay. It's everybody. I've talked to a lot of YouTubers at a lot of different scales. They all hate it. But we all understand that that's just part of the challenge. The other thing I like about YouTube as far as the challenge goes is that you can see your progression and you can always challenge yourself to make another great piece of work. And sometimes one of my favorite things to do is just to go back and look at older videos and see how much better I've gotten. I look at every video that I post on YouTube as an opportunity to improve. And so I try to find one or two small things that I can make better, whether that's the graphics or the editing, or if it's like just figuring out better camera angles or getting more creative. I love the challenge. And then of course, once you post it, you get a chance to interact with other people and they get a chance to take it on and tell you what they pulled out of your content. And that challenges you too. So sometimes my challenge is, I really would love to get a comment from someone saying that this was the best explanation of X camera. Or you explained this really, really well. And that challenges me to write my scripts in a way that really resonates with people and tries to be as clear as possible. And then the last one obviously is the endless possibilities. You know, I've said it a couple times up here, but you know, thanks to YouTube, I've gotten a chance to work with some pretty amazing brands. One of them being Anton Bauer. A couple maybe 2 years ago, I actually purchased a red Komodo camera. It's a pretty high-end cinema camera. And I was really excited about it. However, you buy the camera, and then you got to buy all these accessories to go with it, which I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with that process. You buy the camera, and you're like, I'm really excited. It's like, yeah, but now you need this lens, and now you need these batteries, and now you need this flash, or now you got to buy this tripod, or this slider, or whatever it might be. And when I bought the Komodo, I was really excited, but I knew that my journey was just getting started. However, simultaneously, Anton Bauer had just come out with some new accessories for the Komodo, and we got a chance to talk to one another, and we worked together to actually come up with a nice little campaign. And so I'd love to show you guys that campaign really quick, because it also allowed me, again, to work with a company and get a chance to showcase what I do and show how much I love.
I have to say, being a full-time video creator is a dream job, but it doesn't come without its struggles. Every day is a different adventure, regardless if I'm shooting video projects for clients or for my own social media content. Each day comes with its own obstacles to overcome. Sometimes that's traveling to multiple locations, run and gun filmmaking, you name it, I kind of see it all. That's why when it comes to my gear, I have to work with reliable equipment that won't let me down. That's why I love the Anton Bauer Titan Micro Series batteries. First off, the size is perfect, especially with the footprint of cinema cameras becoming more compact like my red Komodo. And with the 47, 94, and 140 watt-hour options, you can pick the perfect size needed for your shooting scenario. They also created the accessories needed in order to easily attach them to my Komodo, so I can spend less time building out a complicated rig and more time capturing. Probably my favorite attachment is the dual battery micro plate. With this, I can attach 2 Titan micros and have up to 300 watt hours of hot swappable power. And with the intelligent 5-step LED fuel gauge, knowing your remaining runtime is as simple as a click of a button. Regardless if you're shooting handheld for a fitness video or shooting on sticks for an interview, the Anton Titan microsystem lasts me all day across multiple jobs, and with the size, it makes it easy to pack up and take with me to my next project.
So what's funny about that project was, as you guys can probably tell from the fact that I'm wearing the mask, that project actually happened right around COVID. At a time where pretty much all of my production part of my business dried up. I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you were working during that time period, you felt that. And it was extremely challenging. But because I had YouTube, there was a secondary outlet. And I was able to work with some companies like Anton in order to be able to do some projects to allow some workflow to continue to come through. And this is where I say that YouTube can allow for some opportunities that are just, and as far as I'm concerned, I would have never thought I would have been able to do. And that's why I think it's so important that if you are a creator, that you do find a way to be able to create on your own terms, and you start to be able to build your own brand, so that way you can work with some companies, and that way you can actually do this. Now, as I mentioned before, YouTube is sort of a game, right? There is the challenge to it. These are a couple of the videos that I've been able to work on, and these are also like a ton of different thumbnails, so just to show you guys, the thumbnail game is real. It's a lot of work. But what I love about, if you actually look at some of these thumbnails, is that you'll notice that a lot of these videos are not the same. There is this idea that you have to find one thing that you're gonna do, and you gotta just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. But one thing that I have actually found that has worked really well for me on YouTube is that it's a place for me to still be creative. It's that at the heart of YouTube for me, it's all about being as creative as I can and trying new things. So whether that's talking about software such as Canva, or testing out budget cinema lenses, testing out different cameras, teaching, for me, it's really a place not only for me to just help expand everyone else that's watching the content, but it's also a place for me to personally try to grow and to continue to get better. And this is where I'm really excited to talk to you guys a little bit about just how some of these opportunities can really come out of nowhere. So if you've been doing video production for a while, I don't want to date myself too badly, but if you've been doing video production for a while, you probably have heard of Red. They're a cinematography company, and when I first got into the world of video production, that was the dream, right? If I can just shoot with a Red camera, heck, if I could just be on a set with the Red camera, it would make my life. I'd be like, I have made it, right? And for me, that was always the goal. Ironically, thanks to YouTube, about a year ago, I not only got that opportunity, but it actually went a little bit further. So this is actually a slide from a pitch deck that I actually got a chance to do with Red. So not only was it me getting a chance to shoot with the Red, but it was me getting a chance to work directly with the company. I got a chance to work directly with the CEO, Jared, and get a chance to work with the Red team and pitch them this amazing project. And this was my idea. I said, all right, I've got a couple shoots coming up, and I want to shoot a project on your cinema camera, and I want to show just how powerful your camera is. So here are my 3 ideas. I want to do a music festival. I have one of those coming up, and Marshmello was headlining. I was like, it'll look great, it'll look awesome. People will love to see your camera in that situation. I was like, but if that's a little bit too much, no big deal. We could shoot a luxury car ad. I was shooting some stuff for Turo at the time, so I was like, it'd be really easy. Our production company could shoot something for Turo. We'll use the Raptor, and it'll really showcase what your camera can do. I was like, or we can simplify it a little bit, have a little bit more control. We can shoot a chef documentary. It'll be nice and easy, very easy to pull off. Red's response was, that's great. Let's do all of them. That was not the original plan. We didn't have time to do all of them, but when your dream company says, do all 3, you look at your team and you say, I guess we're doing all 3. So I want to show you guys just a snippet of this. I want to make you guys see the entire thing because it's a fairly decently long video. But I want to show you guys just how we brought this project together. And then, of course, this entire video is up on my channel right now.
Last week, I undertook what was probably the most insane schedule ever. We had 3 highly demanding projects, each having gone through weeks and weeks of heavy pre-production. And due to the nature of how the projects had to be scheduled, we only had 1 week to get them all done. A week we internally nicknamed Red Week. When it comes to picking the right cinema camera, there are millions of things to consider. Frame rate, resolution, size, versatility. It's true, there is no perfect camera, but when it comes to picking the right tool for the job, it's important to grab one that's going to give you the greatest opportunity for success. For Red Week, we decided to go with the Red V Raptor. The large format 8K VistaVision sensor was going to give us the resolution and dynamic range we would need in post in order to ensure that we got the shot. But probably the biggest reason is we needed a camera that was versatile enough to make it through all the different shooting scenarios we were going to find ourselves in. Red Week was going to be one of the most demanding production schedules I had ever put this camera through. If the Raptor could hang, I was convinced that it would be able to produce some of the best images I've ever captured.
So this project, which was a dream come true to get a chance to work on, really showcased how this camera could be used in a production workflow. And that is the thing that we've always done with my channel is we try to actually take people on real journeys because we're real creators. And I will say that that is probably at the heart of what I try to do, and it's at the heart of what I tell most people to do when it comes to creating their own content, is that, as I mentioned before, whether you're just somebody who you may just say, oh, I just live in New York, you know, I'm just a photographer, I do some street stuff on the side. Like, you have a story and a journey that no one else has. And ironically, that's actually the most interesting thing about you. Sometimes it's the thing that you think is like the most mundane, it is the most interesting. Because this camera, the Red V Raptor, granted, it is an expensive camera, but it is a camera that, with the resources, that anyone could buy or rent. So it's only my experience and my journey of using the camera that is actually unique. And that is what I try to tell through my stories. And that would be the advice that I would tell others when you're creating content, is to really focus on telling your unique story. Now, when it comes to finding the right gear for the job, or when it comes to picking out the right equipment, my biggest piece of advice is always to think about what is it that you actually need and not just what would be cool. A lot of times it's very easy to say, oh, I want the best camera that's out there, or I want the most expensive lens with the best f-stop, or I want to get an amazing tripod, or whatever that might be. But when it comes to picking out the right gear for your job, or for your production, especially when it comes to YouTube, I always tell people to actually start small. Simplify the process a little bit first, so that way it's easier to actually create the content. And then from there, as you continue to grow, you can start to slowly add on more pieces of content or more pieces of gear to your overall production, because production can be very difficult. And so I personally love the idea of upgrading your production as you go, especially because these are a couple of my honest beliefs when it comes to production. So first of all, production matters. And I personally believe that the next generation is going to start on YouTube and social media. And so what I mean by that is you probably have like a favorite director or a favorite television showrunner or a favorite, DP in the Hollywood space. I honestly believe that the next generation of Hollywood is actually on YouTube today. And they're honing their craft on YouTube in a way that DPs and directors from the past never had the opportunity to. Because not only can we upload and create the content that we want to, but we can also get immediate feedback and start building an audience as we go. The other thing is that there can always be more if you want it. as I mentioned before, if you want to scale up your production and do something as crazy as that red project, you can absolutely do that. I don't always recommend it, and all of our videos do not look like that. However, I will say that if you want to scale up, that's the thing I love about YouTube is you have that creative control. I don't know if you guys have done production before, and maybe if you relate to me, you can just kind of give me a little nod. But you've had that situation where you tell a client, like, hey, you know, like, this is what we need. And they're like, yeah, but I want to go bigger. Or you're like, do we need to? Or sometimes they say, yeah, this is our idea. And you're like, all right, cool. We need to scale everything up. We need a bigger budget. And they're like, we don't have the budget. So let's just do it with like a couple little cameras and some lenses, and we'll just let it go. That's always tough. But what I love about YouTube is you get a chance to make that decision to scale up or scale down as you see needed, and you can do whatever you think is actually best for your project. And this is the biggest one for me, and the one that really hits home for me a lot is that you can actually do what you love and make a living. As I mentioned before, I did not go to school for this. Not even for filmmaking. I learned everything the hard way through trial and error. I've learned YouTube the hard way through trial and error. Try a thumbnail, it don't work. Try another thumbnail, right? Try a hook, doesn't work. Try another hook, and just keep going. And what's crazy is that because of that, I know that it is actually possible to make a living doing this. Currently, as I mentioned before, with our 3 verticals, I do this full time. But I can also say that like I primarily now focus just on the YouTube side of things, and I can say that you can absolutely make a living creating for yourself just through YouTube if you so choose. The reason why I personally have 3 verticals is because part of my mission is to help creators to be able to make a living doing what they love. And I've learned that there's 2 ways that I can really do that. I can either teach them how to do it, or I can hire them to do it within my company. And so that's the way that I've chosen to do it, and that's the reason why I have verticals. Full transparency, I would love to just do YouTube and just make videos, and I could totally do a living doing that. However, for me, there's a joy of hiring creators and working with other creators and collaborating with them and bringing them on the team in order to allow them to create in their best space. Because I have definitely been that creator who had to work underneath people that didn't really give me the creative freedom and didn't give me the chance to truly express myself. And so within my company, I try to do that. But I understand that I also can't hire everyone. And so that's why we openly try to teach and give away as much value as we possibly can through all of our different verticals and the ways that we can help it. And then the last one is just understanding tools will fully unlock your creativity. On my channel, a lot of times we're talking about gear that we just maybe got like 2-3 months before. And the entire purpose of testing this gear and working with it is so that we can understand it more and figure out what we can do creatively. This is like a warning / hopefully a motivation to all of you guys out there. But like, I've been doing this for a while, and I know there's people out there who've been doing this longer than me, but I can tell you, at least in the last 10 plus years that I've been doing this, the technology has gotten better, it has gotten cheaper, and it's gotten more accessible. And these are all great things. However, what this means now is that it's really just on us. Like, it's on us to come up with an amazing idea, to get creative with that idea, and to just focus on executing. And I honestly believe that no matter where you are in your journey, if you're at the very beginning, you're so lucky right now because it's like the ramp is fully built. Like when I first got started, there were no gimbals. So like it sucked. Like I was running around with sliders all the time trying to get like a nice shot, and it was still crap because I was broke and my sliders were trash. But I'll tell you now, you can get gimbals for super inexpensive, so the quality of your work, even if you're just getting started, can be so much better than mine was like 5 years into my journey. And if you've been doing this for a long time, you have those skill sets already built. And sometimes, at least for me, there was like a switch I had to sort of like turn in my head. And it was just knowing, oh, I got this. And sometimes that's all you need to hear is like, you got this. You probably have that idea that's been like twirling in your head. Maybe it's starting a YouTube channel. Maybe it's posting on TikTok. Maybe it's writing a book or doing a photo journal, or maybe it's a blog or whatever it is. I can tell you right now that the equipment is there, the gear is accessible, and your idea is good. So You got this. Thank you.